Okay, so it's my pleasure to introduce Isabel. For us at Archbold, for the education team, we have this great advantage here, which is the place, the people, and the knowledge. How we go about connecting different audiences to those resources is where all the fun comes in. And we get to do all kinds of different things. So when I was looking at resumes this year for interns, one of them really stood out as someone that could maybe bring something new to our education program. And that was Isabel Hardwig right here, because like the rest of you or most of you, she has a science background from Oberlin, but she also studied creative writing and did led stand-up comedy and sketch comedy at her school, and has been writing poetry since the second grade. Her first poem was about how terrible fractions are. And she was a recording musical singing artist. She was like 8 years old too. And it's on Spotify.
No, don't say that.
So after you came here, it was this big question of like, that's a lot of things. What is going to happen? What kind of creative way can we connect the youth in the area to the people, the place, and the knowledge right here? And I was not disappointed. That's all I'm going to say. Without further ado.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate everyone showing up for this. My name is Isabel. Don't look me up on Spotify. Dustin is lying. He is lying about that. I'm here today to talk about poetry, to talk about the connections between science and poetry, to talk about the use of poetry as a pedagogical tool, and to talk about my efforts to incorporate poetry into our K-12 curricula here at Archbold. So my project had a lot of different phases and steps and aspects, and I worked with a bunch of different audiences in the 7 months that I've been here since January. I worked with kindergartners and high schoolers. I worked with kids who come to Archbold every summer, year after year, and I worked with kids who have never before experienced the Florida scrub. And as these audiences shifted, my priorities and goals shifted as well. For some groups, for instance, the high schoolers of Highlands County, I felt like it was important to teach some poetry analysis skills and to encourage them to use poetry to become more familiar with the ecosystems around them. For the Boys and Girls Club visit, I thought that it was important to use poetry to help them make personal connections with nature. And for my summer camp activity, I just wanted kids to have fun with language and to lower the barrier to writing a little bit. But across all of this, the one thing that I really wanted to do was just to make people write anything, in any way, anywhere. That was my goal. And I wanted to continue making people write poems up until my very last day here at Archbold, but it seems like all of the kids are gone. So now I will be turning my focus to you all today, and you will have the opportunity to write some poetry in a collaborative group activity that's going to be about halfway through my presentation. So now you all are my victims, sorry, educational targets. But before I get into all of that, I want to talk about some of the other stuff that the education department has been doing this year. We have been leading field trips for groups that come to the station. We have been tabling at festivals and making connections with the community around us. And we've been bringing Archbold research to local classrooms and presenting on ecology. In this picture on the bottom left right there, you can see me doing a somewhat active demonstration of brood parasitism in yellow-billed cuckoos to a bunch of middle schoolers. I'm kicking the babies out of the nest. Dustin specifically requested that I include that photo, probably because I look really dignified and professional and cool. And of course, we also had summer camp, which was so much fun, so exciting, so exhausting. 6 weeks of kids running around the Florida scrub, finding bugs, learning science, hitting each other with sticks, all that good stuff. As Dustin said, there's a little bit of a summer camp gallery in the West meeting room for those of you who have time to stick around afterwards. We have all of the stuff that he said, kid photos, kid art, kid poems. We also have a few extra sheets of the badges that we used to reward kids who had gone a little bit above and beyond this year. So that's a little bit of incentive for you all that if you're really well behaved during this presentation, you might earn yourself a coveted cool camper badge. These are a few other cute photos from camp, kind of a montage of what the experience was like for me. I want to draw your attention to the photo on the top right there, where I am, oh no, not that, where I am where I'm having my own educational experience and learning that sometimes if you tie yourself to a 10-year-old who is determined to win the three-legged race come hell or high water, sometimes you get flung across the room like a little rag doll. All right, so across the last 7 months, and to a lesser extent across my entire life, people have been asking me, why poetry? And so I wanted to share a quote that I think starts to get at the answer to that question. From the poet and philosopher Gaston Bachelard in his book, The Poetics of Space. He said, poetry demands that images be lived directly, that they be taken as sudden events in life. When the image is new, the world is new. This next quote is one that many of you may be more familiar with. The urge to explore, like the ability to discover, can be developed. Biological field stations provide the ideal field setting in which to teach students the art of discovery. That is, of course, Thomas Eisner, the chemical ecologist, from his paper For Love of Nature, Exploration and Discovery at Biological Field Stations, which was chiefly about his experiences right here at Archbold. I wanted to put these two quotes in conversation with each other because I think that they start to get at why I love poetry and why I love ecology. Ecology and poetry have a lot of similarities. Ecologists and poets need to share a lot of the same skills and strengths. They need patience and attention and discipline. And they also need to be willing to explore, to interrogate the things around them, and to play. Both of these disciplines ask that you have the courage to revise your understanding of the world around you, to see things through new eyes. And many scientists and many poets have gotten into it the same way, by seeing something that captivates them and learning a new language just to be able to talk about it. So for a little bit of personal background, I have been leading poetry workshops since before even I came to Archbold. As part of my undergraduate degree, I had the opportunity to take a poetry pedagogy class. I went into local middle schools. I helped kids analyze poems and write some poems of their own. I've mostly included this slide for this cool picture on the right here of me busting it down to Laura Branigan's Gloria, while everybody around me looks at best disinterested and at worst comatose. I would say that this is a pretty accurate summation of my pedagogical style. And that is the energy that I brought to the Highlands County Boys and Girls Club when I visited earlier this year in April. They have 2 locations in Sebring and Avon Park, and between them, I worked with about 75 kids of all ages, kindergarten through 12th grade. As I'm sure you can imagine, there are a lot of challenges in developing activities that will work for such a wide age range, especially when you're working with young kids, when you're doing writing activities with young kids who may not know how to read or write yet, may not ever have heard the word poem before. My goal with this group was to help them use poetry as a way of connecting personally and on an individual level with the natural spaces around them, even in a context where they might not be able to explore those spaces themselves. These are not kids who came to Archbold, we came to them. And in coming to them, we wanted to bring them a little bit of that Florida wildlife. So for this prompt, we had them choose a plant or animal that interested them and write a letter to that plant or animal, introducing themselves and telling them about themselves. Up here in the center, you can see 2 boys looking through one of our excellent Florida Fabulous books to learn more about local wildlife and decide what they wanted to write their poem about. All of the kids wrote something. Success. Many of the kids wrote things that were really funny and interesting and beautiful and meaningful, but I wanted to draw attention to one kid's poem in particular. This was written by a boy about 10 or 11 years old, and the animal that he chose was the gopher tortoise. I've transcribed it here, and I've also included the 6, 7 that he wrote at the corner of his paper there, in order to preserve the integrity of his artistic vision. But he wrote, "Dear tortoise, like you, I like to visit friends, just like you do. Like you, I am quiet and slow to do things. My favorite color is green, which is like the color of grass, broccoli, green leaves, and the chalkboard. My favorite season is spring, which is when the flowers bloom, the bees breathe, and the perfect season to take a walk and breathe. We both walk slow, do what we can, and do our best when we can. I wish I could ask you, do you get tired when you travel for a while? Or how do you know when to react? I wish I could tell you that it doesn't matter how slow you're going. It just matters to never give up and keep going." So across the course of this activity, this kid picked an animal that interested him. He did research on the animal to learn more about its habits. He thought about the ways that he might personally be connected to this animal, even though on the surface they couldn't be more different. He was able to articulate that in this poem, and then he had the courage to stand up in front of his class and read it, and received a round of applause. It was a very sweet moment to see. And so now, no pressure. That's what you're all gonna do. So you may have noticed that the room is arranged in a sort of different way. I know that a lot of people were confused and scared upon entering the room. You'll be working in your little, like, 4-chair clusters, as to whatever extent that they're filled out. But if you're in a 4-chair cluster by your own, you might need to move. So the Joes, they need to work together. Yes, a little bit. Just find a group to join if you don't have anybody in your group right now. Then Katie will be passing out clipboards and worksheets and pencils. For those of you following along online, you are welcome to follow along. The worksheet is up on the screen, or if you want to like take a break, take a nap, get coffee, that's fine too.
Writing it, co-writing it.
You are co-writing it. Yeah. Together, you are yes. You will be writing this poem together as one person. You will only have one worksheet for your whole group. I know that it's written in the first person, so if you could just pretend that you're just like one just felt entity for the next like 10 minutes, that would be great.
This level of cuteness is not expected.
You can do it, Joe. I think you can do that.
They're just going to be Joe G.
Okay, so to make things go more smoothly, I'm going to deploy my greatest weapon, which is my kid voice. So, hey, friends, if you can hear me, raise your pencil. If you can hear me, raise up your paper. Okay, so first you're all going to have 1 minute to talk among your group and decide what your plant and animal species will be. And I also want you to decide who's going to do the writing. So that's all you're doing for this next 1 minute. You're just deciding what you're going to write about. All right, go. Wandering around. Good question to help out.
I like They were a little far away. Yeah. That's pretty good. Take a look.
All right, is everybody ready? Yeah. Okay. So now you're going to have about 5 minutes to write the rest of your poem. If you need more time, you can get it. I wasn't sure how the timing of this would work out because last time we did it was with kids who couldn't write, but I have a lot of faith in your abilities to write. All right. Go.
Yeah.
I like sleep. I like to sleep.
I'm so excited for it. I wonder if we'll have any gems in our audience today that comes up for you.
Well, they could put these in the time.
It's true. I looked into something and I didn't know what that means.
Civic thing.
I must have that. Always helps.
Probably didn't get any.
Guy. That's so funny because I was like straight edge.
You. Yeah.
Wasn't just like
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
There were a lot of, like, really, no idea.
all the history of it.
Yeah.
You. We have one.
And now I don't know what the extra word is. That was the move. Actually, because you're about 18 and minor thread is generally credited with but they were teenagers, they were and the idea that there were minor presence minors. Like 1 or 2 days long. Wait. Oh, yeah. You guys, they went on to even guys, they're more known. You guys actually just listen. Fiber hanging off. Fiber hanging off. Yeah, like you 5 seconds. 30 seconds. That's maybe their prize. You will remember this. There's a lot of things that happen. Where to be Your name correctly.
Shout out on Spotify. It's not. Doesn't work. Allowed? Yes. Right. How we doing? Ready? You ready?
Okay, we still need to finish ours. I wrote too slow.
Oh, Joe. All right. Does anybody want to share their group's poem? Come on, someone's got to volunteer. I'm going to start picking on interns, and interns have struggled enough. Yes, you all in the back.
Interns are gonna smoke us.
So, our home title is Dear Eastern Youth. Like you, I like to swim.
End of.
Great so far. Great so far.
Eat bugs. Bury myself in soil away from others. Like you, I am always adapting to new environments. My favorite color is red, which is like the color of an F. My favorite season is spring, which is when I embrace a new stage of life. We both undergo metamorphosis, in parentheses, metaphorically. I wish I could ask you, how can we help you, and why are you so cute and small? I wish I could tell you that. I heart from OGU.
Very good. Very nice. All right. To keep things moving, we're gonna keep going. But if you wrote a really, really good poem, which I know all of you did, you are welcome to share it at the end of the presentation. But thank you all for participating in that. I really appreciate it. It was really fun. All right. So, oh yeah, we got it. Bird Lab's got to turn their chairs around. So another part of my project was I was developing a kind of educational programming for Highlands County high schoolers. And this took the form of a kind of virtual anthology of nature poems. So the way I did this was I took the excellent My Florida Explorer base that we have on our website. It's an interactive map of 360-degree images of different Florida ecosystems. And I paired each of these ecosystems with a couple poems that related to, mentioned, or that were somehow in conversation with these habitats. I used some of the photos from the map itself, and I also took some of my own. And this is intended for Highlands County high schoolers so that they can take a kind of like virtual tour through some of the most special and precious places in Central Florida. Through this lovely Florida oak scrub habitat. It's a 360-degree image, so they can look in all directions. And as they're exploring these ecosystems, they can also explore these poems. So they can click on these tabs right here, and they can open them and read the poems. So this was intended as kind of an exploratory, a way for people to approach these ecosystems and also poetry in general, so that it's not necessarily a prescribed experience for the students, but so that they can decide what interests them and they can follow their own interests and passions and whatever strikes a chord with them. A fun little side quest while I was working on this project was reaching out to all of the poets and authors to try to get full copyright permissions for their works to be used in this project. I had some really great conversations with a lot of really cool poets and writers. A lot of them were really excited about Archbold, and some of them said that they might visit sometime, so that's exciting. Yeah, so this is an example of one of the poems about fire that a student might read while they're exploring these habitats. In addition to this, I wrote a teacher's guide with a couple of lessons that's meant to be used alongside this database. The lessons also highlight which Florida English language arts standards they hit. And I also did a couple of guided worksheets for students to encourage and facilitate a deeper analysis of these poems and a better understanding of how these poems fit into their environments and fit into the genre of nature poetry as a whole. This was really kind of the most challenging part of my whole project because for a lot of it, I was really flying blind. I'd never done curricular design for older students before. A lot of the technologies that I was using were completely new to me, and I reached out to several local teachers, but because of timing constraints, I wasn't able to get specific feedback on these lesson plans and these guided worksheets. So it was difficult for me to know exactly what teachers would be looking for and how teachers might be using this resource, which was all a little bit challenging and a little bit frustrating at the time. But I'm hoping that this is a resource that Archbold has now that can be used even beyond my tenure, whatever. They can be used even beyond my time here. And Katie actually next month will be going to a sort of workshop where teachers can share resources, and she'll be showing it off there. If any Highlands County teacher is interested in it, this database will be provided free of charge. Another aspect of my project was running a couple of poetry workshops with Archbold staff, with all of you. Pictured here is a poetry workshop that I ran after a family dinner in May. Shafali was very generous and let me hijack her eco-grief support group for 1 week to run a poetry workshop there as well. And when working with Archbold staff, I had sort of different priorities than when working with kids. A lot of my activities that I designed for students were meant to help kids explore Florida ecosystems or feel connected with nature. And those are things that a lot of the people who work here do every day. So I had to change tacks a little bit. And my goal for these workshops was to show people that poetry can be a really effective tool for science communication, and also to potentially to work through tricky scientific problems, that it's just a new way of thinking about things and it's a new way of expressing things. And a sort of fun, and then it's fun and everybody can do it. Also at this workshop, I raffled off a couple custom-made Archbold magnetic poetry sets. Here's a picture of A, one of our victors, holding up their prize, as well as a poem that they wrote, an elegy for Gopher Tortoise number 21, the Queen of Red Hill, who died earlier this month. It says, 21, fly like a bird, search and find you, saw shell, cold, gray, blue, sad, collect, sun will rise through you. Rest in peace, 21. You'll always be in our hearts. The magnetic poetry activity was also the base of my camp activity. Here, I printed, cut out, and laminated about 200 words related to Archbold, nature, Florida wildlife, the scrub, and I just kind of let the kids loose on it. So here you can see them rearranging these words to make different sentences, jokes, stories, poems, anything that they wanted. I really wanted to push this idea of exploration and play with language. The magnetic poetry was a big hit and was something that stayed the same throughout all of our camp groups. We had about 6 different groups come through and all of them did this. But I also came up with several other poetry games that could be altered depending on the number of kids, the age range, weather constraints, time constraints. Some of those games included, there was a game where the kids would work together to write poems where each line was 1 word less than the line before. And they also did a Mad Libs where they would fill in words for a story that they didn't have the context for. In doing that activity, I learned that kids these days don't do Mad Libs, and they don't know what Mad Libs is. And I'm really old. But the goal for most of those activities was, again, to encourage that sense of playfulness, to teach kids that there's no right or wrong way to write a poem, and there's no rules for what a poem needs to be. And I think that an activity like this that has these sort of imposed constraints, you only have a certain number of words that you can use, can really help kids sort of unlock that part of them and stop worrying about writing something that is perfect or that fits the requirements, whatever that may be. But for a couple of weeks, for a couple of groups, I was also able to do another activity where I brought kids out into the scrub after they'd done a few of the poetry games and let them spread out, find their own spaces, and just write. And I thought that this was really valuable because camp can be a really high energy, intensive experience, both for the kids and for us. And I really wanted them to be able to have that independent, one-on-one interaction with nature and the tools to write about it. Now, the kids didn't have to share their poems with us. It was allowed to be just sort of a private, reflective thing for themselves. But a few kids did share their poems with us. And one that I want to share with you is this by Audrey, age 7. She wrote, "Birds chirping, wind in my hair, safe and sound." Say it with me. Aww. So to finish off my presentation, I want to show you one more poem written by a camper. This poem was written by somebody who came with the Boys and Girls Camp, which is a sponsored program that we do through a local after school. So a lot of the kids who come here through that camp have never been to Archbold before. For some of them, it's their first time ever learning about the Florida scrub, that they're all from Highlands County, and this is where they live. And so this girl wrote a poem about all of the things she'd done that day. And then at the end, she wrote, "I went in the car, I looked at the view from there. Now I know I'm not in the middle of nowhere." If you had to ask me to tell you one thing that the education department here at Oberlin, wow, I'm still a college student in my head. If you asked me to tell you one thing that the education department here at Archbold is trying to do, this is it. We're trying to show the kids who live here that they don't live in the middle of nowhere, that the place they live is important and unique and beautiful and fun and valuable and worth protecting. I wouldn't have been able to do any of this without all of the support I got from so many different sources. Thank you so much, especially to Abe and Chris Abrahamson, who provided the funding for this internship and also provided such a warm, welcoming, and supportive environment when I was trying to figure out what I wanted my project to be. Thank you to the plant herpetology and avian ecology programs for letting me go out with you for field days. That was a big thing that I wanted to do coming to Archbold, and I really had a blast. Thank you so much to the intern cohort of 2026. You're all so cool and awesome. I feel so lucky to have gotten to know you, and I'll miss you all a lot. And thank you especially to the education department, to Dustin and Katie. You all have taught me so much, not just in terms of working with kids and designing activities, but also in all of our conversations over lunch about philosophy and religion and food and science. You really embody education in everything that you do, and I feel very lucky to have been a part of that. All right, does anybody have any questions? Does anyone want to share their poem? Yes.
How has poetry helped you? Well, first of all, incredible presentation.
Thank you.
And that last poem got me like emotional. I think that's great. The work you're doing of just helping kids connect with these places in unique ways is awesome and so valuable. How has poetry helped you get to know and understand and grapple with your experience of this place?
That's a great question. I think that one of the things that becoming interested in poetry really provided me with is a sense of like, I always want to know all the words. And that's been really fun here at Archbold because all the words are really fun. I've gotten to learn the names of so many different plants and birds and insects and all kinds of species. And I feel like poetry, writing poems about this place, working with kids, writing poems about the places around them, just really helps me find a pocket of focus and allow me to really think about how lucky I am to be in a space like this, surrounded by all of these amazing things that I've like only just begun to start learning about. And it kind of provides me the space to think about everything together. That makes sense. Yeah, Sahas.
How do you think poetry impacts you as a scientist, or can impact scientists, or change the way they think? Or
That's a great question, and buckle in because I've got a long answer. I became really interested in the overlap between science and poetry when I was a high schooler who really liked reading about quantum physics. And the thing about quantum physics is that the language that we have right now to talk about it is insufficient in many, many ways. That's kind of the basis of like one of the first things you learn when you're starting to get a basic understanding of high-level physics, is that everything kind of needs to be communicated in metaphors. Like there's all of these really complicated analogies going on, and that's what you need to even gain access to this world, because all of the particles and all of the things that you're studying are things that don't follow human rules of like chronology and language, and this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, or this happens. And I feel like nature and ecology works the same way. Like we have these language constraints that we use to talk about ecosystems, but the ecosystems themselves don't always follow those constraints. They don't always work in orderly ways, and they don't always make themselves easy for us to talk about in the language that we have for them. And I think that poetry can really help with that, because poetry also doesn't have a lot of rules. You don't have to write a complete sentence in poetry. You don't have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. There doesn't have to be an arc or a chronology or anything. It kind of exists in these as a series of sudden moments of images, of the world being revised and made new again and again and again. And I think that that's a really valuable perspective to take as a scientist, that just because we have a certain language with which to talk about natural systems doesn't mean that the way we talk about them is neutral necessarily. Like we're imposing our own sort of expectations on them, even when we're just like using the grammar that we're used to or things like that. And I think that poetry helps us kind of unhook from those expectations and work a little bit more freely. That was very long-winded, but that's what I've been thinking about a lot. Yeah, Laura.
So as you know, the Abrahamsons are watching online, and Abe sent this wonderful presentation, Isabel. Lots of fun and exciting to see the reaction of the children. Thank you. For me, poetry is reflective and thoughtful. Some of the children were very thoughtful. Did some of the children reflect and express reverence for nature? Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say that the poems that I pulled for this presentation are the ones that were perhaps the most reverent and reflectful. We also got a lot of kids who were writing things that were a little bit sillier, or we also had some really little ones who didn't really understand anything that was going on at any point. One of my favorite poems that I got from the Boys and Girls Club activity was, "Dear plants, like you, I am salamanders," which I think just really sums it up. All salamanders in some way, just like plants are. But I think that certainly I saw, as I was working with kids, that they wanted to use poetry as an opportunity to especially express their love for the things around them. I think that some of them were being very reflective and thoughtful, but a lot of the time when we gave like a summer camper a piece of paper, and we were like, write whatever you want, what came out was like, I love Archbold, I love the scrub, I love the birds, I want to tell the tortoises that I love them. And I think that that's really sweet, and something that I think is maybe harder for adults to express. And also something that poetry can help adults express sometimes. So I really enjoyed seeing that. It was really fun. I have another one online if nobody
Yes.
else. This is Elizabeth. Thank you for this. I was wondering if you find yourself writing poetry or otherwise about your new home in Florida and at Archbold.
Yes, I've written a few poems about my time here and about Archbolds, and about all the fun Florida species, a lot of like sciencey poems. I wrote one about limpkins because I like the word limpkin. And I'd never seen a limpkin before coming here. And yeah, limpkins. It's a fun word to say. Any other questions? Or I just do that for like 5 minutes and everybody leaves.